Hello, assalamualaikum, and very good morning to everyone. Today we will be begin the chapter one of our course SPS298, and the topic is about introduction to skill acquisition. So this chapter lays the foundation for understanding how we learn and also control movement, which is crucial in both sport performance and also the general human movement. So without wasting our time, let's get it on. All right. So for this topic, for the learning objective of this topic, we expected that students should be able to explain the fundamental of movement that will cover at least three key area, which is the first one is information processing, motor control, motor behavior, and also motor skill. And last but not least is a movement control. So these are the building blocks that will help you to understand how we acquire and also refine a physical skill. Let's move on to the next slide. So, what is a skill acquisition? So, skill acquisition is often referred to as a motor learning and control, is an interdisciplinary science. So, it focuses on how intention, perception, and also action work together. So, it's also look how we calibrate our action in response to the environment. So, put simply, it's about gaining voluntary control of our body movement to solve a motor skill problem and achieve a specific task goal. Now let's take a look. Why is understanding a skill acquisitions is important? So understanding skill acquisitions is critical because it informs how we learn and develop through practice and experience. So it draws a multiple fields such as a mechanic, physical literacy, psychology, biomechanic, coaching, and also neuroscience to explore how the brain and body coordinate complex movement, and this knowledge help coaches and educators tailor practice to individual needs. Engineering the learner is both challenging and supported. So next, let's take a look the constraint affecting the skill development. So constraint can either limit or permit development of a skill. And also constraint is divided into three. The first one is individual, environmental constraint, and also a task constraint. So for the precisions of movement, motor skill can be categorized into two groups. The first one is a fine motor skill, which is involve small muscle group like hand and also the fingers. For example, like putting in a golf, playing darts, and also what else? Catching a tennis ball, right? So for the gross motor skill, in other hand, involve a larger muscle group like arm and also legs. For example, like running, swimming, and also throwing. For the nature of a movement organizations, here we consider how a movement is organized. Some skills are more structured and sequential, while others are more fluid and reactive depending on the environment and the performance interaction with it. So it can be divided into three. The first one is a discrete skill, which is a skill with a clear beginning or end. For example, like one shot movement, kick in the football. And the second one is a serial skill, a skill that is made up from several discrete skill put up together. For example, like triple jump. And last but not least is a continuous skill, a skill that is made up from same movement repeated over and over again with no clear beginning or end. For example, like swimming stroke, running, jogging, cycling, and so much more. For predictability and of the environment, so this slide introduces the idea that the environment in which a skill is performed can be varied. So, for instance, in predictable environment, movement are easier to plan in advance. In the contrast, dynamic or unpredictable environment require adaptability and rapid decision making. So next is a Gentile two-dimensional taxonomy. So Gentile taxonomy classified skill based on two factors. The first one is environmental demand, like regulatory condition that dictate how a movement should be performed. And the second one is the action requirement, which are the physical action the performer must execute. Together, this help us assess the complexity of the motor skill. All right, next we move on to the Fleischmann taxonomy. Fleischmann divided motor abilities into two main types. The first one is the perceptual motor abilities, such as response orientations, spatial awareness, and also the reaction time. And the second one is a physical proficiency abilities, which include dynamic strength, static strength, and also the stamina. These abilities affect how well a person can perform a skill. And now we move on to the perceptual abilities, motor abilities, and also physical proficiency abilities. So for the perceptual motor abilities, there are control perception, rate control, aiming, response orientations, reaction time, manual dexterity, finger dexterity, arm hand steadiness, wrist and finger speeds. And for the physical proficiency abilities, like strength, flexibility and speed, balance, coordinations, and also the endurance. So for the thought about motor abilities, it's important to recognize that people perform differently based on their inherent abilities. So abilities do place limit on a skill proficiency, but they're not the only factor. So for example, like past experience, body structure, personal characteristic all play a role. So as a practitioner, we should expect to see the individual differences and adjust instruction accordingly. So, in a way to use abilities in motor performance, we can use a task analysis approach to break down a skill into components and align them with a specific abilities. So, this helps us identify what to emphasize in instruction and allow us to tailor practice to individual learners. For example, like building on their strength and addressing their weakness. So here are the example movement in the spike in a volleyball game. So this concludes our introduction to skill acquisition. So are there any questions? So feel free to ask and let's clarify anything that is unclear. So don't forget to drop your comment down below. So thank you for your attention. In our next session, we will be delivered into how information processing work during a skill learning. So be sure to review today's content before then. Thank you for watching and Assalamualaikum. Bye bye.